Okay, sir.
Start.
Okay, sir. Good evening, sir and friends. Myself, G. Bhanuprakash from first year CSCA. Today, let us discuss about corrosion controlling method. To prevent corrosion, there are 5 methods. Let us see the first one. The first one is barrier coating. Barrier coating is the one of the easiest and cheapest ways to prevent corrosion is to use barrier coatings like paint, plastic, or powder. Powders including epoxy, nylon, and urethane are heated to the metal surface to create a thin film. Plastic and waxes are often sprayed onto metal surfaces. Paint acts as a coating to protect the metal surfaces from the next. Next. From the electrochemical charge that comes from corrosive compound. Today's paint systems are actually a combination of different paint layers that serve different functions. The premier coat acts as an inhibitor, the intermediate coat adds to the paint's overall thickness, and the finished coat provides resistance to environmental factors. Next, let us see the drawbacks of barrier coating. Let us see. The biggest drawback with the coatings is that they often need to be stripped and reapplied. Coatings that aren't applied properly can quickly fail and lead to increased levels of corrosion. Coatings may also contain volatile organic compounds which can make them vulnerable to corrosion. This is an example picture of failing of barrier coating. Now just go through the second method. Second method, hot dip galvanization. In this method, this corrosion prevention method involves dipping steel into molten zinc. The iron in the steel reacts with the zinc to create a tightly bonded alloy coating which serves as a protection. The process has been around for more than 250 years and has been used for corrosion protection of things like artistic sculptures and playground equipment. Compared to other corrosive prevention methods, galvanization is known for lower initial cost, sustainability, and versatility. Next. Unfortunately, galvanization cannot be done on site, meaning companies have to pull equipment out of work to be treated. Some equipment may simply be too large for the process, forcing companies to abandon the idea altogether. In addition, if the process isn't done properly, the zinc can chip or peel, and high exposure to environmental elements can speed up the process of zinc wear, leading to increased maintenance checkups. Lastly, the zinc fumes that release from the galvanizing process are toxic. Next, go to the third method, alloyed steel. It is a stainless and alloyed steel is one of the most effective corrosion prevention methods around, combining the properties of various metals to provide added strength and resistance to the resulting product. Corrosion resistant nickel, for example, combined with oxidation resistant chromium results in an alloy that can be used in oxidized and reduced chemical environment. Different alloys provide resistance to different conditions, giving companies great flexibility. Next, despite its effectiveness, alloyed steel is very expensive. Companies with limited financial resources will likely have to turn to other methods. Monitoring surface conditions are critical, as cracks or scratches can result in an increase in corrosion. Companies also need to make sure the agents used in maintenance don't include corrosion properties. Let us see the picture. The picture in this picture we can see using cathodic protection. Cathodic protection is the fourth method to us. In this method, in this picture we can see pipeline using cathodic protection. Let us see the fourth method, cathodic protection. Cathodic protection protects against galvanic corrosion, which occurs when two different metals are put together and exposed to a corrosive electrolyte. To prevent this, the active sites on the metal surface need to be converted to passive sites by providing electrons from another source. typically with galvanic anodes attached on or near the surface. Metals used for anodes including aluminum, magnesium, or zinc. This is an example picture of E1 coat before left and versus after 18 months of punishment with salt water right. There is no corrosion or blisters. Next, the fifth method and the last method of preventing corrosion, E1 coat. Choosing the right corrosion prevention for your equipment isn't easy. Each of the above methods has its pros and cons, which is where E1 coat comes in compared to the cost-effective, maintenance-free, and on-site ability of E1 coat. Other methods cannot compete. E1 coat uses no toxic chemicals and is environmentally friendly. Our 30-year warranty ensures your equipment stays protected for longer. We have made it a point to provide the best corrosion protection methods available to help companies like yours moving along with as a title as less as possible. There is no reason not to take advantage of E1 coat's power today. That's it. These are the 5 methods to prevent corrosion. And also we can using dry agents and extract applying grease and oil can prevent corrosion. That's it, sir.
Yeah, it's very nice, Bhanu Prakash. It's a very nice presentation regarding the corrosion controlling methods.
Thank you.
Myself Sadvika and my friend Bhavna from CSCA section. We are here to give seminar on fuel cells. Now we can start our seminar. This is the content in our seminar of the topic fuel cells, which we are going to discuss now. Getting into introduction. What is a fuel cell? A fuel cell is a electrochemical device that converts energy produced from a chemical reaction into electrical energy. More specifically, it is an electrochemical device that combines hydrogen and oxygen to produce electricity, with water and heat as its byproduct. Here, chemical energy converts into electrical energy. Talking about construction. By observing the above diagram, in this diagram, we can see anode, which is the negative post of the fuel cells, conducts the electrons that are freed from the hydrogen molecules so that they can be used in the external circuit. Etched channels disperse hydrogen gas over the surface of the catalyst. Cathode, positive post of the fuel cell. Etched channels distribute oxygen to the surface of the catalyst, conducts electrons back from the external circuit to the catalyst, recombine with the hydrogen ions and oxygen to form water. Electrolyte, which is the proton exchange membrane. Specially treated material only conducts positively charged ions. Membrane blocks electrons. In the diagram, we can also see catalyst, which is the special material that facilitates reaction of oxygen and hydrogen, usually platinum powder, very thinly coated onto carbon paper or cloth. Rough and porous maximizes surface area exposed to hydrogen or oxygen. The platinum coated side of the catalyst faces the PEM. PEM means proton exchange membrane. Now, let us discuss the working. A fuel cell generates electrical power by continuously converting the electrochemical energy to the fuel into electrical energy. By the way of an electrochemical reaction, the fuel cell itself has no moving parts, making it a quiet and reliable source of the power. Fuel cells typically utilize hydrogen as the fuel and the oxygen as the oxygen in the electrochemical reaction. The reaction results in electricity, byproduct water and byproduct heat. When hydrogen gas is introduced into the system, the catalyst surface of the membrane splits hydrogen gas molecules into protons and electrons. The proton pass through the membrane to react with oxygen in the air. The electrons which cannot pass through the membrane must travel around it, thus creating the source of the DC electricity. Now, handing over the topic to Bhavna.
Now we're going to discuss about types of fuel cells. There are 4 types of fuel cells: alkaline fuel cell, phosphoric acid fuel cell, molten carbonate fuel cell, solid oxide for fuel cell. Firstly, we're gonna discuss about its mechanism. We can observe its mechanism in the given diagram. This type of fuel cell was being introduced in the early 1960s. As the electrolyte used for these devices aqueous alkaline solution like potassium hydroxide, the procedure for electricity consumption is rather expensive. It has compressed hydrogen and oxygen fuel. It has potassium hydroxide electrolyte. It has up to 70% efficiency. It has 150 degrees Celsius to 200 degrees operating temperature. It has 300 volts to 5 kilowatts up to output, requires pure hydrogen fuel and platinum catalyst. Secondly, phosphoric acid fuel cell. Molten phosphoric acid is the electrolyte used in this type of the fuel cell. It operates at high temperature up to 200 degrees Celsius. It has an efficiency of up to 55%. This type of fuel cell is most commonly used in commercial cars. It has phosphoric acid electrolyte. It has 40 to 80% efficiency. It has 150 degrees Celsius to 200 degrees temperature. And it has 11 megawatts units have been tested. Sulfur-free gasoline can also be used as a fuel. The electrolyte is very corrosive. The platinum catalyst is very expensive. And the next one is molten carbonate fuel cell in this diagram. Molten alkaline carbonate like sodium bicarbonate is used as electrolyte. They can produce high power-ups to up to 100 megawatts. Thus, they can be produced as high power generators. They can also be operated at high temperature up to 650 degrees Celsius. They're not so expensive in production and hence can be used for commercial uses. It has an efficiency of almost 55%. And finally, solid oxide fuel cell and its diagram. Here, this is one of the most commercially used fuel cell as they have the highest operating life. It is very high operating temperature of 1000 degrees Celsius, but other parts of the fuel cell may be able to withstand at this temperature, making it highly unstable. But when used in withstand at its temperature, making it highly unstable. A continuous state, they can be highly reliable. At temperature, the device can produce high water in form of steam, which can be easily transported to steam turbines to produce more electricity, thus increasing the efficiency of the system. This device is also special in case where a wide variety of the fuels can be used. Most of the petroleum products can be used as fuel. The electrolyte used in the cell is called yttria stabilized zirconia. This electrolyte is good for large-scale power generation and has the same characteristics as all the other electrolytes. As the device has very high operating temperature, there are some disadvantages as well. There may be unwanted number of reactions taking place inside the cell due to the high temperature. As a result of these reactions, carbon dust and also graphite may be built up on the anode, making it insufficient from reacting with the catalyst. And here are the advantages of the fuel cells. Water is the only discharge, pure H2, higher efficiency than conventional engines. Excellent part load characteristics, zero emission, long operating period between failures, no rotating parts in the main hardware components, negligible noise pollution. And the top disadvantages of the fuel cells are CO2 discharged with methanol reform, little more efficient than alternatives. Technology currently expensive. Hydrogen often created using dirty energy, example coal. During hydrogen, pure hydrogen is difficult to handle. And finally, the applications of fuel cells. The fuel cells can be used as power sources in remote areas. The fuel cells can be used to provide off-grid power supplies. It can be also used in cellular phones, laptop, and computer. And more even, those are also used in vacuum cleaners, telecommunications, MP3 players, etc. Thank you all for
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Sir,
you, sir.
that's it.
Very nice, very nice. It's a very good presentation by Bhavana and Satvika regarding of the fuel cell. In a continuation,